You know those things your mum said to you when you were a kid, or someone said to you in a passing moment, and those words have stayed with you and actually influenced the person that you are today? Or something that you said just casually to your child or to a friend, and you find out years later that your words actually had an effect on them that was lasting, maybe positive, maybe negative. Mercury retrograde is coming up. It has a reputation for causing communication and technology problems, and that is certainly going to be part of it. But this time, Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Cancer, and it will be more than just machinery glitches and emails going astray. The emotional Cancer energy will bring back thoughts, feelings, and memories from your past. Okay, Cancer is watery, it's ruled by the moon. It has to do with home, family, ancestral roots, emotional foundation, protective sensitivity, and intuition. So you will find yourself, as well as sorting out the messaging errors and fixing the tech issues, feeling old feelings, needing to look into the past, address unfinished family business, and thinking about the words that were left unsaid. Okay, going into the emotional roots of things. So, for the first 3 weeks of July, Mercury will be moving backwards through the sign of Cancer, and for each of the 12 signs, that is going to affect a different part of life. So in this video, I will look at the weekly transits as usual, and then we're going to go into Mercury retrograde and then look at a sign-by-sign breakdown so that you know what part of your life will be affected by this challenging but important time. Hello everybody, welcome to this video. My name is Fiona of Sun and Moon Calendar. In this video I'm going to be using Western Tropical Astrology and whole sign houses. I'm based in New Zealand, but this astrology is for the whole world. Even though we have different seasons, the astrological transits and aspects between the planets, including the lunar cycles, they affect us everywhere, and including the Mercury retrograde that will be coming up in a week or a couple of weeks. So we are heading towards that, and in this video I'll first of all talk about the transits and aspects of the week beginning Monday the 22nd of June until the end of the week, and then we'll look at the Mercury retrograde, which will start after the week, but there's so much happening in July. I have to get ahead of everything that's going on. I won't be able to report on everything. Okay, so what else do I need to say? You can jump ahead to any of the timestamps. At the end of the transit section, there is a quiz question to answer, and there is a YouTube quiz that you can go into, or you can answer in the comments. And if anyone would like to be in a draw to win a 5-minute reading with me, and actually it's not with me, it's as part of a future video. At the end of the video I will look at your chart and you can see last week's video for that. So answer a question in the comments to win the opportunity to do that. Having said that, I've had people answering in the comments and they're all interested, and I say yes, I will do your reading as part of a video. Email me your birth details. I won't share them publicly, blah, blah. And then they don't get back to me. And it's possible that it's hard to find birth times, because I know that that can be tricky to find out your actual birth time. But if you're noticing, I'm just going to say you can email me anyway. If you answer in the comments as well, even if I haven't said that you won, because I'm having so few people, I don't actually have somebody to do a reading on at the end of this video. But if you want to see what it's like, you can go back to the last video. So something I love about astrology is that it can help us with those times in life to understand the reason for those times in life when it feels like we have to move backwards in order to move forwards. Progress isn't always in a straightforward linear fashion. In fact, most of the time it's not, and Mercury retrograde is part of that cycle. We are moving forward for 3 months or so, and then we move backwards for 3 weeks or a month or so. That's the way it goes. And also with the lunar cycles, the energy rises and then the energy recedes. That's part of it. And part of the reason why I have chosen to use visuals in my videos and to do the slideshows so that you can see is just, I think, visualizing all of that can help understand all those energies that are affecting us in life, and then we can just accept it and understand it and feel okay about it because it's just part of life. This is the calendar. I might have said it, I showed it already. Anyway, it uses lunar months and has lots of information. Let's get into the video about the Mercury retrograde, starting with the transits of the week. First of all, in the last video, I talked about the lunar node square to Uranus. That is part of a big, long story, and you can go back to last week's video, especially this story culminates in June and July, so you can see last week's video. It's a bit more epic, that one, actually. Mercury retrograde that I'll be talking about in this video is just kind of part of normal life a little bit more. There is the lunar month as shown in the New Zealand calendar. Gemini is represented by the fantail, and you can see down here, see where that yellow is? That is Mercury retrograde. That's what we're heading towards. But in the meantime, the part of the lunar month that we're looking at here is from the first quarter moon up to not quite full moon. So we're looking at that second week of the lunar month of Gemini. Having said that, on the Sunday, just before this video comes out, or actually it might be Saturday in the northern hemisphere. Anyway, the sun moved into the sign of Cancer, and that is the solstice. So we have the height of the summer for the northern hemisphere and the depths of winter for us here in the southern hemisphere. Okay, this week's transits. So there they are, not quite as dramatic as last week with everything that was going on, and not as dramatic as July will be, just to give you a heads up there. Okay, so the first quarter moon, that's on Sunday the 21st or Monday 22nd of June. The moon square the sun, so around about just after the solstice moment. That is just, it's just a reminder that the square energy of it gives us this tension. It's a reminder to get on with things that we want to achieve this lunar month. What have you been setting out to do this lunar month? Did you set some intentions? What's your to-do list looking like? A bit too full, probably. Usually is in life. But that first quarter moon will give you some drive to want to get on with things, to crack on. Okay, and then we're going to look at Venus trine Saturn on Thursday the 25th or Friday the 26th. Well, Venus, the planet of love and beauty and comfort, pleasure, harmony and peace, is in a supportive aspect with Saturn, and Saturn is normally a downer. It's restrictive, it's rule-bound, it wants us to work hard and grow up and be an adult. In a trine relationship, this could be supportive for making some long-term plans or commitments towards love, comfort, beauty. Okay, perhaps you start on some kind of beauty regime that's going to last you for a long time, or you get a haircut that is going to be sustainable and sensible and practical, but it still looks good. Or you make some kind of commitment to perhaps somebody you're dating. You decide to be more serious about the relationship. These are examples. So I've written here, enjoy working to build relationships, pleasures, and resources. So Saturn asks for work, but you can enjoy it with the trine and enjoy it with that Venus energy. Okay, and next we have on the same day, actually on the 26th this time, the Sun square Neptune. Okay, so the sun is about how we shine in the world, our creative expression as it pours out from us in shining rays of light. We all have the sun somewhere, and our light and our creative spark and our joy will pour from us, which is a wonderful thing. That's normal. We all have that. We need to remember it sometimes. Neptune is a planet of imagination, fantasy, Definitely very creative, like the sun, but more in a dreamy and mystical and idealistic way. When they're in a square aspect together, that's not so easy. It might be that with our creative outlets, our hobbies, or how we're playing with our children, how we're just playing in life in general, and in our romance, that we might get a little bit too idealistic and romanticize things, get carried away with the dreaminess. Yeah, so watch out for over idealism. Also, confusion and vagueness can come up there. Okay, so I've said it in the calendar. That's a little snippet from the calendar. Avoid idealism or vagueness in self expression and leadership. Okay. And then the final one for the week on Saturday, the 27th, or Sunday, the 28th of June, coming to the end of the month, Mars sextile Jupiter. Okay, so this only happens once a year or so. Mars is a planet of making bold moves, taking energetic action, desire, going for it, and also the planet of war and fighting for something. Okay. And Jupiter is a planet that expands what it touches, and it brings opportunity and also goodwill. Like there's a concern for ethical principles with Jupiter, and that sextile aspect is going to be encouraging us to take action. And if there's something where you need courage and energy, and maybe you haven't been feeling courageous or energetic and bold, this will help you to feel like that. Okay, so that's going to last actually 2 or 3 days towards over the weekend, okay, the following weekend. So, what I've said there in the calendar, take bold, strategic action to grow lucky opportunities. Jupiter brings lucky opportunities. Mars is strategic and it's strong and bold. Okay, the quiz question. Which transit this week would most likely encourage energetic action towards righteous causes for healthy soils and waterways? Venus trine Saturn, Sun square Neptune, Mars sextile Jupiter. There's more detail in there than I've given you, but if you go to the actual YouTube quiz question, it will give an explanation for the actual answer. And yeah, hopefully that all makes sense. Okay, and upcoming events. Well, as I'm going to be talking about very shortly, on the 29th, 30th of June, Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer, 29th, 30th at the same time, full moon in Capricorn, and then on the same day, oh, maybe I didn't change the dates. Oops, I'm going to look it up in the calendar. I've got it right here. So the full moon in the sign of Capricorn is actually on the, no, they are correct. They're all on the same day. 29th, 30th, or around that couple of days. Mercury retrograde, full moon in Capricorn, and Jupiter moving into the sign of Leo. I'll be doing a video on that. And now let's talk about Mercury retrograde coming up in the sign of Cancer. There are the dates, 29th or 30th of June, so the end of this month until 23rd, 24th of July. So most of July, as well as a lot of other stuff going on in July, will be characterized by Mercury being retrograde. Okay, so it starts at 26:15 of Cancer. Mercury retrograde is about, in general, is about miscommunication errors, glitches. Use this time for research and review. But we'll talk more about the specific retrograde with Mercury in the sign of Cancer. So here it is laid out, the degrees and signs. Actually, I'm going to move forward to another one. There, we're going to start there. On the 12th or 13th of June, depending on where you are in the world, Mercury crossed the point in the sign of Cancer that it will come back to at the end of its retrograde. So when Mercury got to 16 degrees of Cancer, that was on the 12th or 13th of June, and it's going to come back to that point. But at that time, and right now, as I'm recording this and as you hear this, when it's released, Mercury is still moving forward. It's past the 16 degrees of Cancer and it's moving forward. That is called the shadow period, the pre-shadow period. And then it will get to 29th, 30th of June, and Mercury at that point will arrive at 26 degrees of Cancer. And as it gets there, it's going to be slowing down, and it will stop. It will station. That is the station retrograde. And after it stops, it will turn around and start going backwards, back over those same degrees that it already went over. That means we'll be going back over stuff that we've already been over. And then we go through the retrograde, we fix up the mistakes and we address the old stuff that bubbles up again. And then we get to the 23rd, 24th of July, and Mercury gets back to 16 degrees of Cancer. Normally, Mercury is a zippy, quick planet. It takes around 3 weeks or so to go through each sign. But while it's retrograde, it's slow. It's slower than usual. So things to do with communication and travel and planning and analysis are slowed down and more intensified. Okay, but then we get to the end, and again, Mercury will slow down even more, and it will come to a stop. It will station and turn direct, and then it's going to move forward again, back over those degrees for a third time until it reaches 26 of Cancer again, and by then it will be August. And after that, we're running free. So even in the pre-shadow, that we're in now, we're in this part now, the pre-shadow, and things will start coming up that we will need to address when it's actually in retrograde. And then in the post-shadow, there'll be a sense of relief there, but we'll still be sorting stuff out that showed up during the retrograde. So Mercury is in Cancer from all the way through June, all the way through July, and right up to the 9th, 10th of August. And normally Mercury is just in a sign for about 3 weeks. So that shows how slowly and how intensified the Cancer energy will be with the planet Mercury, the planet of communication and thinking and self-talk. This will be about expressing emotions. There'll be a lot of stuff about emotions that come up, and we'll be talking about emotions and thinking about them, analyzing them, journaling about them. Yeah, that's with the Cancer energy. But I also want to mention the big things that are happening, like July. June has been a bit, but July even more so. Crazy with big things happening. So that mini grand trine that I've been talking about a lot, I think I've got it on the next slide. Yes, there it is. So this graphic was designed by myself. I got the idea, and my daughter did the design for it because it's in the calendar. This is what we're going through now, everyone. This is what we're living through in 2025, 2026, especially this year and going into next year, is this incredibly rare, like not seen in thousands of years, formation of Uranus in the sign of Gemini, air sign, fast thinking, communication developments, technology, trine to Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, technology, grassroots organizations, rebellion even, innovation. Sextile to Neptune and earlier Saturn. Saturn's moving away now, but Saturn is still in the sign of Aries. These guys are in the sign of Aries, about innovation and pioneering and moving into the future with new ideas. And they're lining up exactly. And in July is one of the months where many of them become exact. So those ones that I was talking about, look, there we've got Uranus sextile to Neptune, Uranus trine Pluto becoming exact, And then Jupiter's doing its stuff too. We've got Neptune sextile to Pluto. So these transits with these outer slow-moving planets, they take months, years to form, especially the ones with Neptune and Pluto. That one with Neptune and Pluto, that's been building for years. We're under that influence, but it's becoming exact. Like, right then. Neptune sextile Pluto in July. And then it will be exact again a few times. Yeah, they're going with their retrograde, that it'll be, I think, 5 times in total that those guys come into that exact sextile. So these are affecting world events big time. It's all big stuff, you guys, and we might not feel it so much on a daily, weekly basis, but there are big stories unfolding for us, for the world, for our lives, for the lives of everyone around us. We're moving into new stages of evolution as humanity with all of this. And when I say this hasn't happened for thousands of years, I think it's something like 6,000 years. Whew, it's big times. I hope that's not boring to you because I've talked a lot about it. But anyway, let's move on now to the more practicalities of Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is always about redoing stuff, going back over things, revising, revisiting, redoing things, and research. Okay, mistakes happen. Glitches happen, errors happen. That's the standard part of Mercury retrograde. So take extra care with communications, with arrangements, double check, and electronics and machinery. There are bugs, unexplained bugs. Sometimes actual things you can figure out and can be fixed. Other times it's just glitches and there's no explanation. That's Mercury retrograde. Okay, so check emails twice, check and confirm your plans, check your messages that the predictive text hasn't rendered your message unreadable before you send it to your boss. Go backwards to go forwards. Okay, so no matter how much we're checking issues from the past will arise, and errors that occurred in the past, especially in the shadow period from 12th or 13th of June, things that happened in those few weeks leading up to the actual retrograde, we'll be visiting them again, okay? But also things from further back. And often there can be, most of the time, I think, when it says things from the further back past, I think it's really beneficial to go back over them. But another way you can use Mercury retrograde is research and investigating things, going into things a bit more deeply. And this might be looking at the spreadsheets again and checking that you got all the columns right and the numbers of zeros right on the figures. Are they correct? And sometimes you might find you are better off than you thought you were because of that, or you might find that you're not as well off as you thought you were. But anyway, these are the sorts of analytical investigations that can be useful at the time of Mercury retrograde. All right, Mercury retrograde in Cancer is more about emotional sensitivities, and the overall theme of Cancer is about home and ancestry and roots. And I'm going to use a te reo Māori term for those of you in New Zealand, whakapapa. Okay, so we're looking at that and what has come from the past and what we've inherited from the past, and so it's our emotional foundation. In many ways, our identity, our emotional identity, intuition. With Cancer, so I'll go into that. Cancer, the Cancer sign, can be really good at emotional empathy and intelligence and knowing the right thing to say. They see Cancer people, when we all have Cancer somewhere in our chart, in that area of life where you've got Cancer, you're good at understanding the emotions that others are experiencing and understanding your own emotions, and you can nurture and allow for those sensitivities and flow with them. Okay, and with that you can also have good intuition. All right, I think there'll be a desire to protect and nurture coming out, and that could play out in some of the world politics in terms of questions of national security and even the sense of identity of nationhood, and what does it mean to be part of a nation, like in terms of ancestry again, like even like questioning, when does a nation become home? When you've lived there for 5 years, 10 years, 40 years of your life? Or does it mean you have to have that ancestral heritage with it? Questions around immigration could be coming up. Okay, I'm an immigrant myself, so as so many of us are. Hi everyone, I'm adding this in later because I forgot to mention it. With Mercury retrograde, if you can avoid signing any contracts, like signing on the dotted line for anything, or starting new projects, or making any commitments to something that's important, try and avoid doing that until after Mercury retrograde. Once Mercury is moving forward again, we'll be thinking more clearly. Even if you're thinking perfectly clearly, the people around you won't be, because they're affected by Mercury retrograde. And there could end up being problems out of that contract. Not saying that they can't be resolved, because, yeah, not to be like too panicky about it. Mercury, like, sometimes with the problems that arise with Mercury retrograde, sometimes they're not that bad. You just work through them, you sort them out. There's some delays, you wait it out, you do what you have to do to make the business work, or do the admin involved, and then it's all okay. It all sorts itself out. But the general rule is try and avoid signing contracts or starting new important projects until after Mercury goes forwards. And of course, we know that in life that's not always possible, because things happen, and sometimes just things have to move forward because it's all set up like that. Anyway, I just editing that in because I wanted to add that note. So now I'm going to go sign by sign, looking at how Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer is going to affect you. You can listen ideally for your rising sign. If you know your time of birth, you can look up your rising sign or your ascendant sign by using AstroSeek or AstroDienstAstro.com, also known as, or any other software. And that sets up your house system. If you know where your first house is, your rising sign, you know where your second, third, fourth, fifth, all the parts of your life that the different houses represent. If you don't know your time of birth, that's a bit harder. You can listen for your sun sign, and that will be talking more about your career and your outward expression, your creative expression, and how you express that creative side of yourself in the world, like I was talking about, how you shine in the world. That is your sun sign. And there are still houses that are derived from the sun, so you can listen to that for Cancer. If you are listening for your moon, with this Mercury retrograde, that's a little more interesting, because Cancer is ruled by the moon. And as we've been talking about, the moon and Cancer being the ruling planet of the sign of Cancer, is also about that emotional sensitivity and intuition, the flowing water, and ancestry roots, the mother, and things to do with your mother and things to do with your heritage, but also that emotional security and safety. And wherever you have your moon in your chart, that is kind of the lens of your emotions that you see the world through, and how you respond to things that come to you. If you've got the moon in Cancer, when things of life come at you, you respond in a Cancer kind of way, with sensitivity. You might need to cry a little bit to deal with the emotions that come up, and then you can just get on with things, of course, after that. So listening for your moon sign with this reading might be more telling, because Cancer is all to do with the moon. And just on that note of the moon in the sign of Cancer, if you do have your moon in the sign of Cancer, And because of that, this could be Pisces a little bit as well. My moon is in Pisces, and I'm pretty emotional. Um, and it's my first house, of course. That makes me more emotional. There's so many reasons to be emotional, actually, but if you do have your moon in Cancer, it might be that you're really quite sensitive and emotional, but people might not always see it because, Cancer has this shell of protection like the crab because traditionally it's represented by the crab. So people might not always see it. And in some ways, that's good. You can deal with your emotions privately. You're not painting them all over the public forums and all that, and making yourself really open and exposed that way, even though I do believe there are times where that's appropriate, but often it's not. And you can be really, really capable and organized and together in the rest of your life, and then have that Cancer moon and you are privately emotional. That could be quite a gift to have the level of intuition and empathy and the ability to nurture emotions. That's so important. So anyway, go Cancer moon people. Okay, so we're talking about Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer. So there's a need to revise, review, and fix mistakes, and to research, rethink, and often it will be old emotional issues or old family issues that are coming up. So I'm going to start with the sign of Cancer. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, the Mercury retrograde that starts on I've got the wrong dates there. Whoops, it starts 29th or 30th of June and it goes until the last week, just towards the last week of July. That is in your first house, Cancer. So you will be reviewing and revising all aspects of yourself, your identity in the world, the character that you play in the world, how the world sees you, how you see the world, what you're putting out there in the world, and also all parts of your life. Because from that first house, you're looking at all parts of your life. All right, so let's have a look at what I've got here. So you need to review yourself, review your identity, review all of your life. And with that review time, that's that going backwards in order to go forwards. And there could be some deeper questions come up, like, how have you been formed by your past? And were those formative influences positive, negative, somewhere in between? And then how can you alchemize them even to make them something like that is strong but sensitive and soft and powerful about yourself, and put that out into the world. Okay, these are the sort of deeper things that could be coming up. Be patient as things come up. Nurture yourself as you need to. So some self-care might be needed, all right? And as I've said there, this will be affecting all parts of your life, your career, your home, your partnership. And the other parts of life that could come up a bit more with this Mercury retrograde, though there's so many other things going on at the moment with all those big transits in July. Your third house, Mercury rules your third house of Virgo. Your third house is about your local neighborhoods, your brothers and sisters, and other relations like that, aunties, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins. And your travel around the local neighborhood, your local learning, courses that you're doing, or classes, community connections. So this could be some stuff coming up there, even how you travel around. And also your 12th house. Mercury rules Gemini, and that is your 12th house. And there might be something where you're needing to review some aspects of connections that you have with hospice or care homes, out of the way places, even prisons, hospitals. So stuff like that could come up, retreat centres even, or review some aspects of your own self undoing, like how do you look after yourself? How do you self-sabotage, actually? Looking into some old patterns, it could be even karmic, that can be part of the 12th house, addictions, for example. So with that emotional sensitivity that you have, Cancer, it's how do you best, how can you best? A good review question for yourself could be how to best deal with your emotional sensitivity that's part of who you are, and to honor that and celebrate it and the good aspects of that, but without, ideally, it's easier said than done, without leaning on unhealthy crutches too much, like whether that's addictive behaviors or habits that are not necessarily healthy for you. But if you take away a habit like that, you need to replace it with some kind of other nurturing practice that's more healthy, I hope. So all the best for that, Cancer. I hope that all makes sense for you. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Leo Rising, my date is incorrect there. It's the 29th or the 30th of June until the 23rd, 24th of July. Mercury will be retrograde, Leo, in your 12th house. So this is where you'll be looking at your behind-the-scenes life, the parts of your life where you have connections with out-of-the-way places. That could be hospices, care homes, prisons, even retreat centres, hospitals. But it also could be about you reviewing your escape practices, your escapist tendencies, the ways that you retreat and withdraw from the world, your sleep, your dreams, the creativity that you take part in. Not so much that creativity like you, Leo, is so creative and you're out in the world expressing yourself flamboyantly and creatively in many ways. That's you, your character. But the 12th house can be about a hidden kind of creativity that's part of you connecting with spirit or downloading messages or ideas or feelings or artwork from the universe. That's the 12th house. It can be very creative. It can be about spiritual connection. And there could be some things to review there on the practical, ordinary life level. This could be about looking at your escapist tendencies, like you get home from work, do you flop on the couch? Do you scroll for 5 minutes, but then the 5 minutes turns into an hour and a half and you haven't made dinner yet? That kind of looking at these practices that are not so good for us, not so good for you, and maybe questioning those, going back over them. Things could come up from previous scrolling sessions. I don't know, something could come up to do with addictive behaviors or habits that are not so good. There also could be revisiting some kind of illness, and the 12th house can also be about overseas connections, so far, far distant lands. That's another form of being out of the way and withdrawn, in a retreat state from normal life. So there could be some revisiting there to do. Okay, let's look at what I've written. Review the ways you withdraw, rest, reflect, and connect with spirit. I don't know why I've got a question mark there. Revisit out of the way places, and matters to do with these places could resurface. What are your patterns of self-undoing? And you could also review. Okay, so Mercury rules your second house of your money and your wealth, your possessions, your resources, and what you value. And it also rules your 11th house of your long-term goals and friendship groups and social causes, even causes for social justice and fairness. And rewards from work as well can be the 11th house. So you might be reviewing something in these areas too. So all the best for that, Leo, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Virgo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Virgo Rising, the date is incorrect there. It's the 29th of June, 29th of June or the 30th of June, depending on where you are in the world. You can go back to the earlier parts of the video for the dates. until around about the last week of July. So for 3 weeks of July, Mercury will be retrograde in your 11th house. So there'll be communication errors, there'll be glitches, but Virgo, Mercury is your ruler. So this will be affecting you more than the other signs. This will be affecting you in Gemini because Mercury is your ruler, and of course Cancer because it's happening in Cancer. Which is your 11th house. All right, so there'll be some things coming up with your 11th house. That is the house of your friendship groups, the house of your networks and organizations, groups of people that you belong to, perhaps where you're united, where you and them are united by some kind of social cause or a belief in social justice, some kind of campaign that unites you. The 11th house is also about long-term goals. And what are you aiming for in your future? What are you working towards incrementally? And you've got this as a shining goal. You might need to review your long-term goals, and you might need to review your friendship groups or your social networks and think about, do you want to be part of them still? Or has an issue come up, some kind of you know, friendship group arguments can be quite upsetting at times, and there might be something that comes up, some kind of issue, and everyone's got different opinions, and somebody feels hurt and they leave the group and they leave the group chat. All of that kind of stuff could come up. And the 11th house is also about rewards from work, so there could be something where you're thinking, the things I'm getting from this job, my income, is it enough? Or is there something where your income was set at something and then you discover, oh no, they said they were going to pay me this from such and such a date and they didn't, and you can sort that out. But it might also be you're questioning or reviewing maybe the types of status or your sense of pleasure that you get from your career, all of that. Okay. And especially as Mercury is the ruler of your 10th house, as well as ruling you, it rules Gemini, and that is your 10th house of career. So career questions could come up. Let's look at what I've written. Mercury is your ruler. Okay. So you've got an overall review of yourself and the part that you play in the world. So lots of stuff could be coming up, all of life in some ways. There could be issues in friendship groups or networks where something needs to be revisited, and you might need to revisit with that friendship group or with that social network that you've joined for this shared vision. There might be a need to look at that, and the group might be looking at it as a whole. What are the outcomes? What are you aiming for? Questioning that, some kind of review. Also review your personal long-term goals. Avoid starting new campaigns or projects, and there could be delays possible in your career because of that 11th house, which is your gains from career, and Mercury ruling your 10th house. And then Libra, sun, moon, or rising, but especially Libra rising. The date is incorrect there, but that's typical Mercury retrograde on the 29th or 30th of June until 23rd, 24th of July. Mercury will be retrograde in your 10th house of career. Okay, so there's some kind of review period coming up with your career, and when I say review, it might be that you don't even choose to do the review. Issues might come up in your career, resurface in your career from the past, something that you thought wasn't even a big deal. It turns out it is a big deal. It comes up again. It needs to be addressed. And by the end of the retrograde, there might be an adjustment of direction for a career project that you're doing, or for your career goals for yourself, or even the tasks and the jobs that you're doing. Okay, so let's have a look at what I've written. So yeah, because the 10th house is not just about career, a paid career. It's also about public positions. So if you're the head of some committee, or there's something that you do that you're known for, you have a public reputation, there could be some issues that come up that need to be addressed and sorted out. And mostly with Mercury retrograde, things just need to be sorted out. That's the way that it is. You just got to work through the sorting out. So, issues to revisit in career or public positions. Communication errors at work. There's some bigger stuff with this review and thinking about your career direction, but sometimes it might be just plain old, boring, and time consuming communication errors that need to be sorted out. Avoid launching new work projects or signing contracts if you can. It's not always possible. Sometimes you just got to go with what's coming from management or external forces affecting the timing of things, all right? But if you can avoid it, that's good. And often the universe will just make it happen that they say, okay, we're going to sign that contract, we're going to sign that agreement on Thursday. It's the middle of Mercury retrograde, and you're thinking, ooh, Mercury retrograde, I really want this new project to do well, so I don't know about signing the agreement. And then just things will happen anyway. Somebody's off sick, there'll be some delay, and it ends up that the universe makes it happen anyway, that you're signing later. Okay. Review your career, your status, and your plans for your legacy, because your career house is also about what you want to put out in the world that can carry on into the future, even after you're gone, after you've retired. Okay, what's your legacy? What has meaning for you? And I've added that there, what has meaning, because Mercury rules Gemini, and that's your ninth house, which is all about things having a higher meaning, a higher purpose, and you want your career to have meaning. Okay. Mercury is also the ruler of your 12th house, and where you're having any troubles or needing to rethink with your career, having some time out, like taking some time away from things, like going for a long walk in the hills out the back, that could help you, or just going away somewhere, probably by yourself, but then if it's with others, maybe those could be spiritual guides of some kind, like some people that you share spiritual beliefs with. Okay, anyway, some time out, even just some dreaming, journaling, time away where you're in flow and not in that sort of mercurial, organized, everything's timetabled kind of thing. That could be helpful. Anyway, I hope that's helpful, Libra. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Scorpio Rising, the date is incorrect there. Very typical Mercury retrograde, but on the 29th or 30th of June until 23rd to 24th of July, Mercury will be retrograde in your ninth house, Scorpio. So this is a house where you will be maybe having some stuff come up about your religious practice or your spiritual practice, or maybe more common, travel plans, okay? Because the ninth house is about it's a house of exploration and finding meaning. And the exploration side means that it's about travel and going off to far distance lands. And it's also a house of where you are, sorry, getting warm now. It's a house of where you have connections with people from distant cultures, foreign cultures, okay? The ninth house is also about your spiritual belief systems, and that's where some questions about your spiritual beliefs or your religious practices could come up. And the ninth house is also about higher learning. So if you are a student at university or some kind of tertiary learning course, there could be questions about it, or some assignment that you need to redo, and time consuming. I know, like maybe you get to the point where you're handing something in and you realize you missed a whole section of the essay that you had to write or the report that you had to do. Okay, so there also could be, on a deeper level, more, and the emotional side of it, questions about the meaning of life, because the ninth house is about finding meaning in life and by broadening one's horizons, and that's why it's higher learning and also travel and also philosophy and religion, trying to understand how everything is organized into a system of beliefs. So perhaps with Mercury retrograde, you're questioning your system of beliefs. But this will come out in more practical, ordinary ways. There might be some analysis that needs to be done. It might be that you're looking at the rule book on something and just trying to find those more like the practical details. Okay. But then emotions will come into it as well. There could be things coming up to revisit from the past to do with um, a religious leader that you follow, or your study advisor, a lecturer that you follow, or that you're working with. Anyway, issues could come up from the past, or some kind of, maybe somebody you met on some travels, they get in contact with you, could be another example. All right. Um, the Mercury is a ruler of your eighth house, and so some there could be something that's even a little bit transformative about this, because the eighth house is transformative, and you might be looking at some of your deep psychological layers. And it would be good to talk with somebody about this, or journal, like use words, speaking and writing, to help you work through anything that does come up. And Mercury is also the ruler of Virgo, your 11th house. And so there could be some where you've got connections with groups of people, especially to do with study, like your student body that you belong to, or the university organization that you're a student studying with, or teacher or tutor or lecturer with, or a religion or organized spiritual group. Okay, so some issues could come up in those groups, like could be, some arguments or issues, or just different points of view that need to be sorted through. An issue from the past could resurface. I feel like I've been a bit waffly, but let's look at what I've written. Delays in travel plans or study plans, issues with religious practices, or even legal matters, because that can also be the ninth house. Avoid new flight bookings or new legal campaigns. Avoid new teaching or writing projects. If you can delay any of those until after Mercury is going forward, that would be better. So review all of the above, expect errors to show up and things that need to be reviewed or rewritten. So all the best for that, Scorpio, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Sagittarius Rising, from the 29th or 30th of June until 23rd or 24th of July, Mercury will be retrograde, and in true Mercury retrograde fashion, the date is incorrect there at the start, not the 1st of July. It'll be 29th or 30th of June. And Mercury will be retrograde in your 8th house, Sagittarius. The 8th house is a house of going deep, and you've got Cancer there, and Cancer likes going deep into the emotional roots of things. And you might be exploring and learning some stuff, or having to review and revisit some aspects of your deep psychological layers, perhaps through some counseling, or just things come up. It's like old things from the past, and revisiting could help you with quite a transformational emotional experience that makes you stronger for the future. On the one hand, more resilient, and also more understanding and accepting of your deep layers. Sagittarius, because you're a sign that's quite on the surface, like you are tending to want to bound off and explore the dizzying heights of things, like look at the meaning of life and the universe, but maybe not so much in terms of going down into the deep down below. Well, this Mercury retrograde is going to make you go down below more so than usual. The eighth house is also about your partner's resources or shared resources, and also about large amounts of money that you have connection to, but not necessarily that you can access easily. For example, retirement savings and investments, but also your partner's money. So there might be a discovery that things need to be addressed with some of those areas of shared resources or shared money. And it could even be that you're talking with your partner about these things, and reviewing and discussing. Try and avoid making any new agreements and signing on the dotted line till after Mercury goes forward. Okay. The eighth house can also be about very, very deep emotional intimacy with the partner, and with that sexual intimacy, like physical intimacy, where you're sharing with your partner your very deep, vulnerable, and sensitive self. And that's normal for the eighth house, but even more for you guys who've got Cancer in the eighth house. So have courage, Sagittarius. If some issues come up between you and your partner that are deeply intimate, physically or emotionally or both, um, yeah, you're a courageous sign, but sometimes it's hard for you to go into those deep sensitivities. So good luck with that. Let's see what I've written. Review investments, retirement savings. Discuss shared finances with partners. Issues could arise or resurface. Avoid signing contracts to do with finances until after Mercury goes direct. And explore your deeper self and or your deep vulnerabilities with a partner. And the vulnerable sides of yourself could be your deep fears, and they could also be your deep desires. And I hope that you find that transformational and beneficial, Sagittarius. So all the best for that, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Capricorn, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Capricorn Rising, on the 29th or 30th of June until the 23rd, 24th of July, and the date's there wrong, the date there is wrong, shouldn't say 1st of July, anyway, Mercury retrograde. Mercury will be retrograde in your 7th house. This is the house of your partnership. Okay, and so Cancer is your partner's house, and if you've got a partner, and this could be a business partner, it could be your actual life partner, like a marriage partner, somebody that you've made a committed long-term commitment to. All right, so something could come up either in your relationship to do with your relationship, or the ways, or something could come up for your partner themselves. All right, and partnership, if we also go wider, that can also be about things to do with one-to-one partnership, like if you're in a type of work where you're doing one-to-one work, like where you've got clients and you meet together on a one-to-one basis. So for you, Capricorn, those clients have the nature of Cancer. They might tend to show up as quite sensitive people, and to be quite deep and connected to family roots and heritage, or just sensible. They might cry. They might cry quite a bit. That's all of your life. You're going to get that. And that might be happening even more if the people that you encounter or your partner is sensitive and this Mercury retrograde is happening in their sign. Things will be coming up for them. You'll need to be supportive. But the other kind of classic thing, not kind of classic, it's classic, like I've seen it so much, is where you might bump into an ex-partner. They'll show up or they'll message you out of the blue. That tends to happen with Mercury retrograde, especially in your 7th house of partnership. Okay, so what have I written? Review partnerships, business, personal. Miscommunication errors can happen between you. Be forgiving. Try not to be emotionally manipulative with your words, and if they are being so, forgive them a bit. Mercury is retrograde in their house. Okay, revise arrangements and contracts, but I advise not to set up any, or you could look at setting up new agreements if things do need to be revised and changed, but I recommend that you don't sign anything and don't finalize it until after Mercury goes forward. Review the ways you approach partnership. Old issues will resurface, and you and your partner will need to look at them, or if it's for your partner, you will need to support them through that. And revisiting these ultimately will be beneficial, or at least necessary. And that's just the way it is. Okay, so Mercury is the ruler of your 6th house, Capricorn. So yeah, so Gemini is your 6th house. So something could come up also to do with your work, your daily work and your routines, your health even. Um, your life admin, how, what you eat in terms of how you organize your food and your daily timetable, but also your work, your colleagues. And the ninth house is about travel plans, about higher level study, so issues could come up there as well. Anyway, all the best for that, Capricorn. Good luck, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, from the 29th or 30th of June until late in July, Mercury will be retrograde in your 6th house. And true to Mercury retrograde, look, the date's wrong there. It's not from the 1st of July, it's a day earlier, 29th or 30th of June. That your 6th house is where you'll be doing some reviewing and revising, and issues will come up and errors will show up from the past that need to be corrected. And the 6th house is a house of details, so this is very likely to happen. And yeah, there'll be lots of fiddly details to sort out. The 6th house is your house of your daily work and your routines for life. So your daily work, how you give service in the world. Things could come up with tasks that you thought were all completed, and then you have to go back to them, or the instructions that you've been given. There's errors, communication is unclear, emails go astray in the workplace, or there's issues with your colleagues and that could resurface that you thought was sorted out and they come up again. On the home front, the 6th house is about how you organize your daily life, your routines, and your practices for health, your exercise, your eating. And it might be that you're reviewing some of these and looking them up, and you thought maybe that you were this kind of exercise was really good for you for repairing some old injury, and you've been to physio and you're following the regime that the physio set you, and then you go back for a physio visit and you find, oh no, the physio said the opposite of that. I've been doing it all wrong, and you need to review it. Whatever it is, stuff will come up. You just got to work through it. It will probably be annoying because, especially Aquarius, you tend to like to think in the big picture. I think you're good at details. You're logical and you can do it, but you tend to be a big picture person. But the 6th house is a lot about the small picture, and Mercury is about the details as well. Mercury also rules your 5th house, so stuff could come up in your romance, or stuff to do with your children as well, because that's the 5th house. So Gemini is your 5th house, all right. And then Mercury also rules Virgo, which is your 8th house of your partner's resources and money. So maybe some stuff will come up there. So let's have a look what I've written. Disruptions in daily routines for health and life admin and the way that you keep order in your life. You might need to revise and revisit work projects and redo. Avoid starting new projects, and if you can, avoid starting new health routines, and especially with work projects. Sometimes you don't get a choice about the timelines of those, but if you can influence it, and often the universe will just, things will happen that means the new work project is something that ends up being delayed until after Mercury retrograde finishes anyway. And there is a need as well, Aquarius, to be patient and forgiving with others and the communication issues and errors. So if somebody thought they sent you an email at work and you never got it, it's not always that they were negligent. Mercury retrograde just makes these things happen sometimes. Okay, so all the best for that, Aquarius, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Pisces Rising, on the 29th or 30th of June, not the 1st of July, as it says there, that's an error, until 23rd or 24th of July, Mercury will be retrograde in our 5th house, and we'll be reviewing stuff to do with our romantic lives, the dating world if you're part of that. And if you're not dating, if you're with a partner, it might be to do with your actual romantic life together. and the play and the fun that you have together. But the fifth house is about play and fun in general. So, Pisces, whether you're single or with somebody, play and fun and your creative expression, your hobbies are going to be going through a review time. Okay, I write songs. I'm a Pisces rising, and I write songs. So maybe I'll be, I hope it's just something as simple as I am rewriting some of my songs, which kind of annoys my friends that I play with because I keep changing them. But anyway, so yeah, Mercury retrograde in our fifth house. And the fifth house, another really important part of the fifth house is children. And it might be something that a child of yours is going through, whether you're going through some kind of review period or an issue comes up with a kid, you thought it was all done, you thought they'd finally made up with their friend and all the friendship issues were done, but no, something resurfaces and it needs to be looked at again, and you've got to support your child through that. These are the kinds of examples. Mercury is also the ruler of Gemini, our fourth house, and that's the house like Cancer. It's got that for us. The fourth house is about home and family and emotional heritage and roots. So stuff could come up what to do with that. And Mercury, it's a really important planet for us Pisces because it's the ruler of the fourth house, one of our angles, and the seventh house of partnership, another house on the angle. Okay, so things could come up for your partner or within your relationship with your partner. And again, this is where the fun and the play and the romance side of things could be old issues that come up that resurface, and they just need to be addressed as best as possible with empathy, emotional intelligence, and understanding. So, what have I written? Revise your hobbies and creative projects. Avoid starting new creative projects if possible. Avoid starting new relationships. So, if you've been dating somebody, no, hang on, I'm going to change that. So, if you're just wanting to set out on the dating apps or somebody, or just about to start dating somebody, if you kind of delay that till after Mercury goes forward, that would be maybe ideal. Okay, and it might be that it ends up anyway. You know, sometimes the universe just brings these delays naturally in. Okay, avoid starting a new campaign or a new committed activity with your children. Like if you know your child is really really keen on starting soccer or football, um, and you know it's going to be really good for them to play this. Hopefully, you can wait um, till after Mercury goes forward. And I'm just thinking in New Zealand, it lines up with the school holidays. Once the school holidays are done, term 3, we should be starting clear, and then you can join your kids up with something. On the other hand, there might be opportunities to revitalize old romantic connections and also reviewing how you do romance. Maybe, yeah, there's so many ways to do romance. I won't go to them all here. So issues to do with dating, children, fun, play. Be patient with communication and dating. If you're dating someone new and they're getting their messaging all wrong, it might not be that they're that bad at messaging or their communication skills are really that bad. It could be that Mercury retrograde is playing a part, so maybe be patient with them there. So, all the best for that. Oh, yes, I should say, um, old dating partners might show up. They might message you out of the blue, or you might bump into them at the supermarket. Okay, see what happens with that. Usually not much, but it's often with Mercury retrograde, you bump into people from the past. All the best for that, Pisces, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aries, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aries Rising, on the 29th or 30th of June until 23rd, 24th of July, Mercury will be retrograde in your fourth house of home, family, heritage, ancestry, your mother, your roots. Okay, please ignore that date. 1st of July, that's not accurate. It should be 29th or 30th of June, typical Mercury retrograde, to make that kind of error. Okay, so on the surface level, Aries, this will be about communication errors and messages going missing and sending the wrong text to the wrong person and machine glitching. Okay, And always avoid signing contracts and things like that with Mercury retrograde. But also the fourth house is going to have a deeper emotional feeling for you, and there'll be stuff to do with family and heritage and your family of origin and even your ancestry coming up with this Mercury retrograde, where you're reviewing stuff and revisiting, and old issues could resurface to do with any of those. And so you might be reviewing stuff to do with your family of origin, the people you grew up with, but it also might be to do with your current home and your housemates who you're living with, or the property that you're living in. There could be some issues that come up with the house that you're living in, and you need to address these issues. Okay, and Mercury is the ruler of your third house, so that's Gemini, and the third house is about communication and writing and speaking, so do expect things to go wrong there. And it's also the ruler of your sixth house, of your work and your routines in life and how you keep your life in order, your organization and routines for your daily life. And both those, third and sixth house, they're very much houses of um, detail and just keeping things in order and organized, and where you need to look at dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So certainly these are things to do, especially in your communications with your family. All right, so what have I written? Delays in home. Oh, excuse me. Delays, sorry about that, I should have put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Delays in home or property or family matters. Old memories might come up, okay? You might be revisiting old family issues, okay? Try and make any major decision or moves forwards into new territory, or setting up something new for your home or new renovations after the retrograde ends, so end of July onwards. Yeah. You could also check how your mum is doing, or how your grandma's doing, your grandfather, okay? See how they're going on with. And it might be just that happens you're just going along in life, not thinking much about the retrograde, and your great aunt messages you, your grandfather gets in touch, people from the past, or you find an some old watch that your grandfather owned or something, and this memorabilia brings back memories of the past, and it might be good to look at some of these. Okay, so all the best for that, Aries, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Taurus Rising, on the 29th or 30th of June, Mercury will be retrograde in your third house. And please ignore that error up there. It's not the 1st of July, it's 29th or 30th of June. That's the Mercury retrograde error, I reckon. So the third house is about your communication, your speaking, your writing, what you are sharing on social media, marketing your small business if you have one, and how you are communicating in that and selling things, trade and exchange. So some issues could come up with any of those that need to be sorted out, and you just have to have the patience to do that. The third house is a busy house. There's a lot going on in that third house. It's also about schools and the neighborhood and learning and your neighbors themselves. It's also about um, handcrafts or hand skills, or if you're doing any courses like learning guitar or um, learning leather work in the neighborhood, something like that, there'll be something comes up to review in any of those areas. Maybe you're working on a craft, like knitting a beautiful jersey or jumper, and you realize, oh no, you got the pattern all wrong, you got to pull it all out and redo it. That would be a really simple third house Mercury retrograde review thing to do. If you're going to a local school, like a local tech, polytech, or your kids are at a local school, some issues might arise. Like they might come back. You've visited them before and they come up again, and you need to address them. Okay. Mercury is also the ruler of your second house. Gemini is your second house. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So there might be some review of your finances or your possessions or resources that you might want to look at. And it's also the ruler of your fifth house, and that's about children and romance as well, and your hobbies and creative expression. So that could tie in with some of those third house things, I think. Okay, what have I said? Travel delays and miscommunication. So the third house is also about your travel around the local neighborhood. It might be that you're trying to get your bike fixed and you can't get it fixed, or you're trying to get your car fixed and your car's just stuck in the garage and you're having to take the bus to work, it's making you late, or you're having to share with a friend, that could be good, a colleague. All right, miscommunication errors. Review your travel plans to do with local trips. Like if you're just, as part of your work, perhaps traveling to and from the next town or traveling to and from school pickup, there might be something where you realize, oh, there's actually a better route I could be taking. Or if I take this car, if I do it this way, take this bus instead of that bus, it's going to be better. Try to avoid signing contracts or, making any kind of agreements until after Mercury is going forwards, okay? That's a general Mercury retrograde principle. And sometimes you don't have control over that, but if you can avoid it. Old issues could come up with siblings. Oh, I'm going to turn that phone off. Sorry. Excuse me. I'm going to put that on Do Not Disturb because I didn't. And yeah, Do Not Disturb. Okay, there. Now that's done. All right. Okay. So old issues could come up with siblings, with relations, your cousins, your auntie, because these are all part of the third house, and neighbors. They are part of the third house. Take care with your words and be forgiving. All right. Because everyone's making mistakes with Mercury retrograde. Everyone's got Mercury retrograde happening, and especially with that Cancer element, people could bring more emotion than they should, or maybe more. There's could be some anger that comes out, and it's from hurt or upset, and that emotional sensitivity that the Mercury retrograde in Cancer could be bringing out. Try and put out your lovely Venusy peaceful vibes, Taurus. So all the best for that, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Gemini Rising, you are ruled by Mercury, Gemini. On the 29th or 30th of June, excuse the error there, it's not the 1st of July, it's 29th or 30th of June, until the 23rd, 24th of July, Mercury will be retrograde in your second house. So Mercury rules you. This will be affecting you, Gemini, because you're ruled by Mercury. So there's something about all of yourself and all of your life that's going backwards in a way that needs to be revisited. But then it's also taking place in your second house of your finances, your resources, your possessions, how you measure what you value, and how you prioritize your spending, and how you look after your resources, okay? Something to review about your finances and your income, and possible errors and issues with your finances and income or your possessions, that the errors come up. You just got to work through and address them. There are annoying details that need to be addressed, but Gemini, you're good at details, so that's okay. Let's go on. Mercury is your ruler. An overall review of yourself and the part that you play in the world. Okay, so every time Mercury is retrograde, that's up for you. And Gemini, you're so good at learning and you're so good at adapting that I think you'll be okay with that. And you do have to do it 3 times a year because Mercury goes retrograde for 3 weeks, 3 times a year. So there's a little bit of circling for you. Issues with income and finances and expenses. So you may need to revise these. It might be time consuming working through it, but it will be better to sort it out. Revise your priorities and values, because the ways that we spend our money, and in some ways the ways we spend our time, or actually the ways we spend our time, these reflect your priorities and what you value. So you might be reviewing these. How do you value the possessions and the resources, what order of priority do you give them in terms of the time you put into looking after things or to getting the income and how you use your time. Avoid new spending decisions, avoid making big purchases, especially surprise impulsive purchases until Mercury is going forward. And it might be that you discover something from the past that you didn't remember that you had, like you find some old possession in the garage. I don't know, let's say you want to do some exercise at home, watching TV, and you want to buy an exercycle. I don't even know if those are still going. You want to buy an exercycle, and then you think you have to buy one, and then you find out that there's one in the garage that you'd forgotten all about, and you can use that and you save yourself the money. It's something, a possession resurfacing from the past. Hopefully you also find some old pool of money that you'd forgotten about as well, Gemini. Anyway, all the best for that, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. So there you go, everyone. That is all from me. I hope you do the quiz question. I hope that I encourage you to answer the question in the comments to win a 5-minute chart reading. And if you've already won it, please email me with your birth details if that's possible. And yeah, we're coming up to Mercury retrograde, so anything that's going on right now could be something that's revisited later. That's the nature of Mercury retrograde. But it's all good, it's all part of life, and we learn and we grow internally, and then we can express it in the outer worlds. Go well this week, everyone. Ka kite, bye for now.